Thank you. My name's Chris Brennan. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Left off the word grateful on purpose. My sobriety date is March 2nd, 1994. My home group is called Break Down the Book. It's a one paragraph at a time big book study. Holy Family University, Northeast Philadelphia. If you're ever in the area, come visit. As you can tell by the name of the meeting, that's kind of what we're into. We break down the book and try to see what it's telling us to do in that book, maybe inspire some people to take the actions in that book. And there's going to be some eloquent speakers over the weekend, not me, that are going to explain through their own experience just what that means, the mechanics of the steps, their experiences with the steps, etc. And so if you're new, just do whatever you can to try to get yourself to pay attention. I remember for me, this whole world of hearing different speakers on CD. CDs aren't really that old. They're not around that long. And I remember I spoke at an anniversary in Phoenixville, I think it was. I don't know how long ago, 8, 10 years ago, whatever it was. And they gave me a little gift, which was new to me. It was probably one of the first anniversaries I ever spoke at. And I got in the car, and there was a card. And I could feel something in it, and I'm like, that's cool. They paid me, you know. But what it was not only a CD, it was a whole double set, like a double live album. And it was a little one. It was called "The Spiritual Life Is Not a Theory" by some guy, Sandy B. And I'll tell you what, I could not tell you the number of times I listened to that CD. Not so much for Sandy himself, and I'm sure he'd be the first one to tell you what I learned from that, the way I started to look at things from a different angle, and then investigate other speakers that are available. I mean, the beauty of technology is, and these guys, we're talking about gratitude here. Look behind me. They're the people we're grateful to, and I'll get into that in a minute. But we have so much at our fingertips, I don't think we realize that sometimes, what you have at your disposal. You got some unbelievably talented in an AA sense that can explain it to you. You know what I mean? Einstein has a famous quote. He says, if you can't explain something simply enough, perhaps you don't know the subject well enough. And that's been my experience when you go through this and it becomes a part of you. It's not that hard to explain to people. Doesn't mean you're going to be any more successful. Doesn't mean that they're buying into it. It just means that you'll get a little better at explaining it to them. Bill Wilson calls it being armed with the facts. I thank Scotty for asking me to be a part of this. I know we kind of blow it off. Oh, yeah, no, but it really, it's a big honor. It's a thrill. I don't do this every weekend, in case you were wondering that. We actually closed down our home group. Most of my home group's here tonight because of something like this. There's a lot of energy in this building. You know what I mean? This building is going to explode over the weekend. Between the speakers coming in and the people here, and I'm sure there'll be more people coming in at different times. I mean, if you're new, maybe that's something you'll be attracted to, that this energy that we call Alcoholics Anonymous, that you're going to feel this weekend. I had no idea when I came into AA that was available to you. I just thought it was kind of like a death sentence and, all right, whatever, and hopefully I can get wherever you get to and whatever and get on with my life. Had no idea that you could get better and not only be sober, that you could go out that door and do whatever you wanted with your life. And alcohol or drugs don't have to hold you back anymore. Matter of fact, they won't even be part of the process. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny, we laugh. My topic is why we're grateful. First of all, when I thought about that, I'm a local guy, no secret. I was born and raised 15 minutes from here, Southwest Philadelphia, 57th and Elmwood, West Catholic, class of 78, right? And when I started thinking about gratitude, I laughed, and I don't know why, my mother came into my head. My parents are both passed away. Usually it's my dad. I always talk about my dad. He was a Marine, smart guy. Whenever I reference him, it's always my dad. All of a sudden, my mom comes into my head, and I heard her. I could see she was German. And she had that stoic look. And I could see her like 8 years old. You are one ungrateful, fill in the blanks, right? And I kind of laughed and I thought to myself, well, maybe it took 40 years, but now I'm speaking at an AA convention on gratitude. So maybe something took somewhere along the line, subconsciously, who knows. But the reason we laugh when we talk about the subject of gratitude, and this is just the way I look at it, obviously you don't have to agree with it, I think it's a very misunderstood word in AA, topic if you will. You can't go to a topic meeting without it rearing its ugly head. I mean, it'll be one of the topics. You can bet money on that. And what I'm trying to get to is gratitude is a little misunderstood in that it kind of encompasses a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Part of it is thankful. And that's what it means. Of course, like a good alcoholic, I was looking up some things on gratitude today, and I got really obsessive. The longer I stay sober, maybe I'm just getting a little weird, I don't know. But I like reading, imagine that. My dad would be proud of that. And I like reading like old smart guys, philosophers, and stuff like that. And this dude, Cicero, he must have been important. He had one name, He's like Bruce or Prince. Well, this guy, Cicero, he said that, there's a famous quote where he says gratitude is not only a virtue, it's the parent of all other virtues. So apparently it's a very important thing. But then he went on to say that it's living a life of continuous thankfulness. Not just spot check, I'm not doing good, let me make a list of what I'm thankful for. I don't, that may work at times, it may not, I don't know. Maybe it'll get you through a rough spot. But he was talking about this becoming a way of life, right? He also talked about when you develop this quality, it becomes like an inner light radiating from you to the world, right? This is just something coming out of you. Right? And it was just a beautiful thing. I read it and I had to mention it because another synonym for gratitude is, you think of a debt of gratitude, right? We're in a debt of gratitude to Bill and Lois and Henrietta number 2 over there, and Bob and Ann. And we go along the list, Sister Ignatius. They're the real people where I'm personal. I can't speak for everybody in AA. I think of, they told me the story, the woman who came up with that I am responsible, got a lot of heat for it because she didn't put we. And she said, well, maybe you don't feel that way. I do. And I can't make you feel grateful. I can tell you that for years, my life, I have the gratitude has never ceased, but it's kind of a different kind of gratitude, because if I look at it as I'm just indebted to you, I might avoid you. You know what I mean? That's not going to do too much for me. So a debt is part of it, but it's kind of like the kind of debt and the kind of thankful that's all wrapped up in one. And I'm just so blown away by this feeling for what AA has done for me, the 12 steps, etc., that I can't stop talking about it, and I want you to have it. And hopefully that's what they're talking, that's what Cicero was getting at, that it comes through you, that people can see that radiating from you. The downside of it, and I think why it confuses people, is that's not something you can do by the act of the will. If you're not grateful, you're not grateful. You can't just, I'm going to be grateful. And, we say in AA, a grateful heart will never drink. I'm not so sure about that. It depends what kind of gratitude you're talking about. My sponsor, Bobby, who will be here the rest of the weekend, another local guy. Many of you know Bobby. He was not a real pleasant guy with me. And, well, I was going to say in the beginning, but 18 years later, he's never real pleasant with me. And he was the kind of guy who would tell me, Chris, shut up, which I need to hear a lot. Shut up. Gratitude is an action word. Show it. Then it will mean something. He explained to me that, although it sounds nice, and I get my 5 minutes in the meeting, me telling you I'm grateful really means nothing. I mean, what does it mean? I should be dead or in jail 10 times over. And I'm going to tell you I'm grateful? But he said, if you're really grateful, you don't even need to tell us. We'll know. You'll have a newcomer in the back with you. You'll bring a carload of guys to the meeting. You'll be in service. You'll be chairing the meeting. You'll be taking a coffee commitment. Imagine that, right? When I was thinking about indebted, for some reason, the clubhouse, Philadelphia, for those of you guys not aware, is very steeped in AA history. It goes back probably pre-1940. They argue about the dates, but probably 38, 39, a guy named Jimmy Burwell, Jimmy the Atheist, the guy who's credited with God as you understand him, who has pissed more people off and maybe saved more lives with the same thought, right? Supposedly the story is he cut a deal with Bill, and Bill started to see how that would open AA up to the masses, and it became God as you understand him, and your own conception of God, and other phrases like that. And Jimmy was a traveling salesman, and he realized he was going to be coming through Philadelphia, or he moved to Philadelphia. I don't know what happened first. And he said, I'm going to set up an AA meeting, have a couple guys down there for when I'm coming through or when I'm there. And AA group number 4, you could argue, if Akron was number 1 and New York was number 2, and we'll give Cleveland number 3 because they steal everything from us, right? They got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have no idea why. Right? So we're basically AA group number 4, right? Which is pretty cool if you think about it. There ain't a lot in front of us. And Philadelphia General Hospital, which is the old convention center for you older people who, back over by Children's Hospital, it's not there anymore. That was where there was some famous AA doctors. There was a Dr. Hammer and Dr. Saul, I kid you not S-A-W, S-A-U-L, right? And there was a few other doctors over there, Stouffer, who, when Jack Alexander was writing his famous article that put AA on the map in the Saturday Evening Post, he was getting his statistics from them. They were working on guys at Philadelphia General Hospital, right? These were hardcore, low bottom, not the AA of today, which is, I salute all the big book thumpers out there, under 30 years old. You know what I mean? You guys are the new generation. You're the flag bearer. I mean, hopefully I'll be around for some more years too, bothering you. But you are the guys and the girls that are going to be carrying this stuff. And I know, what that comes with. You're not always the most popular person in the room carrying that blue book with you. But I think anybody that's been through it, and I think you'll hear over and over the course of the weekend, that it's a pretty good deal. If that equals being a dork, you want to be a dork. You know what I mean? If that's not cool, you don't want to be cool. You know what I mean? If that means you got to hang out with new friends, you want to hang out with new friends. And that's just been my experience with it. But this debt of gratitude to the Philadelphia contingent especially, we're also steeped in AA clubhouses. You know what I mean? 4021 up on Walnut Street is one of the first, if not the first, clubhouse in the country, right? Northeast Club goes way back to the early 40s. Stepping Stones, where I got sober at, right? Life or Death, New Life, South Philly Group. There's just Roxborough. There's countless clubhouses, which I heard a guy once say they're like the operating rooms of AA. They play an integral part in the whole process. Are you necessarily going to learn the big book there? Not really. But for a guy like me, who got sober at the Stepping Stones in Northeast Philadelphia in March of 1994, I will never be able the rest of my life to pay back what those guys had going on when I got there. And it wasn't some sit down, let me impart some great wisdom on you. It was just having it up and running, having a place for a guy like me to go, who I don't know about your drinking, but at the end of my drinking, I wasn't socializing too much. I didn't have a busy agenda. You know, I didn't have a lot going on. So for a guy like me to have a place to go, period, if I speak at, chair, clean up in every AA meeting for the rest of my life, I will never be able to pay that back. And I hope you guys will all feel that someday. You know what I mean? To some degree, at least. I think that's kind of, when they talk about gratitude, a lot of guys say, make it a verb, make it an action word. It's okay as a noun or an adjective. Bobby wouldn't let me use the word, though. He said, if I ever hear you identifying yourself as grateful anything, just shut up. You know what I mean? So it was ingrained in me at a young age in AA that I just can't do it. We're indebted to a guy in the early 30s, a guy named Roland Hazard, who luckily came from some rich parents for us. And they sent him over to Switzerland to spend some time with number 2 over there, Carl Jung, right? Who's credited with our solution to alcoholism, by the way. And he spent a year with them. I don't know about you. I never spent a year with a doctor or anybody. A year, right? He knows the inner work. Carl Jung was one of the, he was with Freud, psychoanalyst. They were 1 and 1A. And turns out for us, Jung happened to be very spiritual. If he would have got an appointment with Freud, we'd all be dead today. So we kind of lucked out there. But Jung happened to be very spiritual. And after a year, he said, pretty much, look, you're hopeless. There's nothing I can do for you. Which is a lot for a great doctor, I would imagine, to say, right? He said, the only thing I can tell you is that if there is an answer, it's got to be spiritual. I can't really tell you how to do it. I know it's got to be on a deep level, not just church or something like that, not just these foxhole prayers. You need to go. He basically said, go back to America, pick a religion of your choice, and good luck. Well, Roland made it from like here to Wildwood. He made it to France from Switzerland. And somebody asked him the wrong question. They said, Roland, you want a drink? And he said, sure. And it kind of sounds funny, you tell that story and we blow it off. But to me, that mindset embodies alcoholism right to the core, right to the point. You don't need to do any dissertations on it or read any wordy books. Is that's a dangerous kind of mindset. That I could be on guard after having spent a year and I'm not going to drink. And the word suddenly is in the book many times. Suddenly, bam! You know what I mean? Sure. If that's what we're really dealing with, if that's what the peculiar mental twist is, the alcoholic mind, the mental blank spot that Bill talks about, if that's true, then basically we're in trouble, right? And the other 11 steps become vitally important. So I tell that little story with Roland and Jung because I was thinking about it, and it really embodies what we're up against. We're up against a mind that at any time can hit that suddenly patch. But if you can have an entire psychic change, as Silkworth said, complete thought transformation, basically take the other 11 steps, have something happen to you, teach other people how to do it, live it yourself, etc. You'll be fine. You'll be good to go. Only in AA could you get like 2 thoughts back to back like that. You're going to die. There's nothing you can do about it. But if you can do this, you'll be fine. I mean, that's what it says. So Roland comes back and along this line of debt of gratitude, and he hooks up with the Oxford groups that were around in New York back then. I don't know if he was in touch with Shoemaker back then or not. Shoemaker's one of my favorite AA guys. He was the head of the Oxford groups in New York, and he's so important that Bill asked him to write the 12 steps. I mean, when I read that, I thought to myself, you're an idiot if you don't get to know about this Shoemaker guy. I mean, he asked him to write the 12 steps. That's got to be pretty important. And so he starts going to these Oxford group meetings, has this thing happen to him, gets sober. They tell him some bad news. You got to go witness to somebody else. You got to go give it away. And he says, I got a guy getting locked away. Let me take a couple of my buddies with me. His name's Ebby Thatcher. He's a friend of a friend. The one dude's uncle was the judge, and maybe you know the story, maybe you don't. And they get this guy Ebby sober. He was sober, but he wasn't really buying into it all the way. Ebby, if you read Ebby's history, he was kind of like, he'd be out tonight. He probably wouldn't be here. Ebby liked to get out, and he wasn't really big on giving it away part. He liked being sober, I'm sure, but the giving it away he never bought into, and therefore he fought staying sober his whole life. But Ebby gets sober, and he says, I got a guy, you know what I mean? His name's Bill Wilson, famous kitchen talk, Brooklyn, 1934. Choose your own conception of God. To me, I don't think Bill Wilson wrote the big book. I believe it was divinely inspired. He was not qualified to write that book. And when I read a line like, when Ebby told him he could see Bill was fighting with the whole God idea, and he said, why don't you choose your own conception of God then? Bill says, it melted the icy intellectual mountain in which I had lived and shivered for many years. Man, you talk about relating to that. Do it again, Dawn. Right? If you can't relate to that, then I don't think you're going to relate to anything in here. You know what I mean? This head of mine, where I have been the captain of my own destiny my whole life. I didn't know it was wrong. I was taught by well-meaning people that that's what a man does. In the spiritual world, it's called pride, but I didn't know that. But I was taught to get out there, be something, make something with your life, etc., and basically kind of get them before they get you. And flash forward a lot of years for me, I happened to live through it, who knows why, and I come into AA, and they basically tear all that apart. They just tear it apart, thought by thought, and like DeMello says, it's a process of subtraction. If you're new in AA, the beauty of it is you don't need anything. You really don't. Now, you can study books. Maybe they'll ask you to come speak someday or whatever. But you really, if God's inside me, he's inside everybody. I got to believe that. I don't think he's inside just a few select people. And if that's true, then you don't need anything but to learn how to let him out. And as far as I can tell, that's what the 12 steps are about. They're all a process of subtraction. There ain't no addition steps. They could have very easily said, why don't you write a list of your assets or spiritual principles and just live up to them? Because basically that's what it says. But for some reason they realized that would not work for alcoholics and that they would rebel against that. So they took kind of like a back door into that. And they realized, well, maybe if we just get a handle on the bad part, the other side, these things called defects of character, and maybe if we watch for them and ask for their removal, etc., as they pop up, maybe when they're gone or they're down to a low level, the spiritual side just comes out automatically. That's been my experience. I can't be spiritual necessarily, but I can look out for me. And I can look out for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, etc. Put a word on it. And when they crop up, ask God to remove them and talk to somebody about it. Usually for me, make amends quickly if you already harmed somebody. I don't know about you. When I was drinking, I had a big mouth. I know that'll come as a shock to you. And even sober a little bit. I say things, boy, I wish I didn't say them. So a lot of times I have to apologize and make amends. And then the final part of that is turn your thoughts to somebody you can help, which is kind of like tying into the gratitude again. It's misunderstood. If you're grateful, go help somebody. You know what I mean? That's what gratitude is. It's this feeling that I'm so overwhelmed by this emotion, this thing that's welling up inside of me, that I want to help you to pay it back. You know what I mean? That's a little different than just thankfulness or just being indebted to you. It's, like I said, it's a combination of all of them. So I know we use the word a lot, but maybe you'll look at it in a different light like I did. It really helped me out immensely because I really thought up until I learned a lot of these things that I had something to do with my sobriety and that I was doing it and that if I could just stay sober somehow, everything would be okay. And I learned it just doesn't work that way. We're grateful to Scotty and his people. Newfound freedom, go ahead. Newfound freedom for what they're putting on this weekend. I know there was a lot of work involved with it. I get the easy part. I don't do anything really. I just got to come speak. You know, I get paid to bloviate. But Scotty and Lisa and Dawn and Mike and Steve and Lee, Ben Franklin over there. And I'm sure I missed Dave and Denise, who put a ton of work into it. And I'm sure I'm missing some names. Over the weekend, thank them if you get a chance. You know what I mean? Thank them. This just doesn't happen overnight. They've been working on it for a long time, and I know that's the real work in the background. I say I'm not a background guy. I want to be up front with the suit on. I really don't, but I think I do. I don't know. I'm torn between that. But that's where the real heroes are, and that's where the work's done. And it kind of like when Scotty came up with this topic, it took me back to when I met him. And I don't know what year it was, 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. And we were kind of, some people had opened some halfway houses in the area. So we found ourselves with a lot of clients at our feet. Not on purpose. It was just the way it was happening. And we started opening that book. I should say in passing, for me personally, Joe and Charlie, some more of my heroes, you know what I mean? They were big when I was just getting sober in the mid-90s. I mean, they blew me away. That was all new. I never heard anything like that. You know what I mean? We probably were listening to them on 8-track, but that's okay. And but Joe and Charlie, and then, like I said, some other speakers, and we had these guys at our disposal, and this guy, Bob Olson, I'll say his name I think he was from Minneapolis. He told a story that blew us away. I don't know why. Bunch of idiots. We weren't really doing any step work at the time. We were just kind of 3 meetings a day, waiting for that miracle to happen they talk about, right? Hey, maybe I'll meet Miss Right. Maybe I'll get married. Maybe I'll get a job, you know, right? Stay open-minded and all that. But for some reason, after about a year of that, we heard this guy, and he talked about a group in Minnesota, I believe it was, called the Golden Slippers. They couldn't stay sober, hence the name. Kept going in and out of AA. And they came up with a novel idea. I think there were 7 of them. They were going to stop intellectualizing the big books, stop talking about it, and just open it from the beginning and do what it said, and see what happened. And none of them ever drank again, right? I think 1 or 2 died sober, and the rest are still sober. But when it said write, they were going to write. When it said consider, they were going to consider. When it said pray, they were going to pray. What a novel idea. I mean, that's Alcoholics Anonymous to me. I know we always say how simple the spiritual world is and how you really have everything you already need. I know it doesn't feel that way if you're new. You feel like you need stuff, namely money, and the opposite sex wouldn't hurt too much or whatever, you know, however that goes. But I feel like I need stuff, and AA teaches me I need to get rid of stuff and give stuff. What a novel approach to spirit. And this is nothing new. Bill Wilson didn't come up with this, or Dr. Bob, or anything like that. This has been around for thousands of years. One of the reasons I didn't know about it is I don't really pay attention. Never read anything. Never looked, never tried to better myself. You know what I mean? I drank from a young age and went through life like the tornado they talk about. And I wake up in my middle 30s in AA wondering what happened and what do I do now? And I'm here to tell you that it's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty good deal. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for everything in the world. You know what I mean? Everything, and I always tell people this when I meet them. You know, you meet people and right away, my wife, I'm like, don't tell them I'm in AA. 2 things if we go to a party. Don't tell them I work in the stock market, and don't tell them I'm an alcoholic. Well, 10 minutes into it, what do you think of IBM? And do you go to those classes still, right? And I understand where they're coming from. People, they naturally feel sorry for you when they hear you're an alcoholic or in AA. But I always try to stop them at that point. I didn't always. But I try to stop them at that point and go, no, don't feel sorry for me. You know what I mean? Alcohol, we give you a lot of credit. Look, don't give me any credit, first of all. But Alcoholics Anonymous is the best thing in the world. And you know what always happens? It always kind of turns out like some kind of a conversation where I'm explaining to them what AA is really about. It's about God. It's really not about alcohol at all. You know, we learned that's our problem. It's only a symbol. It's really sobriety, thinking, etc. And it's about God and spirituality and things of that nature. And to a person, they always look at me in amazement and go, I had no idea that's what AA was about. No kidding. I don't know if most of the people in AA know that that's what AA is about. I know I didn't for a long time, right? But that's what I'm kind of getting at here, is I can't not do that. I would like to just sit in the corner and say, thanks, I'll have a Diet Coke, you know what I mean? Because another thing people do, they rush up to you right away. If they hear I'm in AA, we have iced tea, Diet Coke, regular Coke. And I'm like, whoa, I drink, just not alcohol. I drink liquids, relax, and people get a little excited. They don't know how to handle it. But my point is that this gratitude we're talking about that radiates from the inside, right, which encompasses thankfulness and indebtedness, and just not giving back because I have to, giving back because I'm so friggin' happy of what happened to me. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing we're trying to get you to touch on in here. It's the kind of thing we're trying to get you to touch on this weekend a little bit, because it's inside of you. We can speak beautifully about it and try to give it to you, but it's in you. We can't make you do it. You know, AA is a lot like eating a meal. We can explain what we had, and you'll still die of starvation. You know what I mean? We say the big book's a textbook. I heard, it might have even been Bob. I don't know who said it. They said, really, the big book is more like a cookbook. It's full of little recipes. But if you don't take them and make them, you'll die of starvation. You'll die in AA, sitting there thinking about what you could have had to eat. Maybe speaking about it, right? Speaking eloquently on what you would have had if I was eating, right? So if you're new, please, like I said, try to pay attention a little bit if you can. I know it's hard. I have to pray sometimes. I got the attention span of like a flea. I know. I ain't good. In AA, we're not big on attention span, you know, especially in big meetings. You know what I mean? I'm okay for a minute or two, but then I look over, hey, I think she smiled at me, and I think he's talking about me, and I'm gone. A couple minutes into it, it's easy to be gone mentally. You don't want to do that. The point I'm trying to get to, you don't want to miss what is going on here this weekend. Okay? They say it's an experience you must not miss. I think this is one of them. This don't happen, like I said, every day. You know, this may be one of the rare, it might be the only time you're at something like this. Who knows? You know, I always keep that in the back of my mind when I meet a newcomer, or if I'm speaking somewhere, whatever the situation is, this might be the only time I ever meet this person. What am I going to do, mail it in? Hey, how you doing? Great to be sober, yeah. Right. I look at all those situations this weekend, everything, that I got to get something to you somehow. You know what I mean? Some have more experience and are a little better at selling it to you. It's a tough product. We're selling God to people who ain't really looking to buy it. So it's a little bit of a tough sell. You know what I mean? But that's kind of what we're doing. Our job is to dress it up and make it sound good to you. Your job is to get somebody to sit down with that book and to make those recipes and to make it happen in your own life. It's already inside you, I promise you. You don't need it. It's the beauty of AA. I mean, what a deal for people like us. AA is pretty much, you can't join it, right? It's like pretty much the last place on earth you end up. It ain't even like a club you can join, nor would you want to, right? You just kind of end up there, and embodied with that is the best possible deal you could ever ask for in life. It doesn't cost a dime. maybe $1 in the basket, right? And think about that. Sometimes we take it for granted. We don't realize what we have right in front of us. We don't, for whatever reason, whatever's in your head blocking you. I don't want to ask that man. I don't want to ask that woman to help me. They're probably busy, et cetera, et cetera. Just do it. Just do it. Use this weekend to propel you to do it. You know what I mean? To do something you normally wouldn't do. Look at these people behind me. You know what I mean? 77 years ago. And we're still going strong talking about them. You know what I mean? You feel like you owe a debt of gratitude to these people? You know what I mean? Show it. Grab a new person. You don't have to be well-versed, an English major in the big book. You know, it's an open book test. Just meet them at a meeting. Say hello. Be friendly at first. You know what I mean? And somehow get them there. It's really, I can't say enough about the simplicity of it and how lucky we are, which is the ultimate irony, the ultimate paradox for people like us, how lucky we are to be alcoholic, right? You would think, what? Did he just say you're lucky to be? I know when you're new, if you're brand new sitting here tonight, you probably ain't feeling like you won any contest. You ain't feeling real lucky. But trust me, if you will do this stuff that I'm hinting at and that some other speakers are going to expound on, I think you'll find it's true. I've never met anybody, and I've been around 18 years, I've never met anybody that's gone through this process who came back to me and said it didn't work. I mean, what does that tell you? There's not a lot of things in life like that. You know what I mean? Some things in life, well, to each his own. Not really in AA. You know, those things don't apply in AA. I have seen people veer off of it, and that's a promise. So there's no guarantee you're going to stick at it. But I've never met anybody in my time around that has gone through this process and, like they say, actually taken the 12 steps. The key is, and it's kind of, we can't get people to this point sometime, that back end of the steps, sponsorship. AA is built on this simple idea that if the problem's in my mind and I'm thinking about you, I automatically win. I cannot think about you and me at the same time. But the only way I can do that is to make myself think. I don't just automatically think about you. I have to go up to you, introduce myself. How you doing? Or if I'm sponsoring, whatever. I have to, it's built in AA. We have people, you don't have to do it. I get up pretty late, 7:30 in the morning, and there's guy, by 10 o'clock, I'm on the phone 10 times. It's baked into the cake. It's built in. We don't even have to go look for it. And that's why I'm saying we're lucky. Bill talks about how lucky people like us are in that he's saying this giving it away is, and Sandy talks about it also, it looks like a gun at our heads in the beginning, but it's actually our biggest gift. It's the biggest thing I have going for me in life. And this is really cool when you come to grips with this, is that I am such a loser that somewhere there's a market for that, apparently, in AA, and that I can, language of the heart, and that I can help you because you might believe me, because you believe I've been there, right? That whole deal, Bill and Bob, right? And they talk about that being our greatest asset, because how do normal people get spiritual? You know what I mean? Did you ever think about that? And the answer is probably they don't. Most people go through their whole lives. Maybe they're successful to the material world. Maybe they do well in business. Whatever. Maybe they think they're a success. Who knows? Maybe they are. Who's to say? But they never get spiritual. They never really look at this stuff. Because the only time you really look at this stuff is in the final analysis. Like he says, when your scorecard reads 0. You know what I mean? If I got 20 more bucks, one other idea, I ain't interested in God. I'm interested in the theory of God, but I ain't interested in finding God. Or at least I'm in no hurry to, you know what I mean? So that's the beauty of all this, bringing it all together, wrapping it up, is that for a bunch of bozos who a lot of years ago started And we went up to Scotty's Places in Levittown, and many of you are familiar with what's going on up there and all that. And it just started to explode. And one night we're doing it around a pool, and the next thing you know, we're in a high school auditorium, and the next thing you know, we're over here and over there. We heard a guy say the other night, an old timer said to him, "There's a big book renaissance going on. Get on board." And I'm telling you, it's going on around here. It's been going on for a number of years now, and get on board. It's cool. It really is cool. It will change your whole, not just life around your AA life. You'll go for a different reason. You won't go to get anymore. You'll go to give. And then you'll know what receiving's all about. So I thank Scotty personally. This whole thing this weekend, I know he's been working on something like this for a long time. Number of years thinking about it. Like I said, it just doesn't happen in a vacuum. Some of the speakers that have flown in to share their experience and go through this stuff with you, man, I know a lot of them in the sense of I heard them and I have a good idea what they're going to say. So I'm excited about it, and I want you to hear about it, but only you can stay and listen and really absorb it. Get some CDs on the way out, and I'm telling you, man, I put them in the car, and I would listen to guys like Bob or Sandy or Clancy, whoever, and just over and over and over. I don't know how many times. Not, like I said, not to put them on a pedestal for what they were saying. They were saying something that was completely new to me, completely foreign. It gave me a whole, Chuck Chamberlain says, new pair of glasses. Gave me a whole new way to look at it. So thank the committee this weekend. Thank Scotty for all the work he put into it. Take advantage of what's at your disposal here. And thank you for letting me be a part of it.